Hi there, my name is Joy, and it's about to get really weird. This video is for Life Path 11s, and usually I wouldn't talk so openly about this subject because, well, there are a variety of reasons. It's not important, but I think that this is something that 11s probably need to hear about, probably need to know. And I'm just going to go for it. So the subject of the video is entities and entity attachments. And I can also talk a little bit about how energy works in this regard too, because it's not completely dissimilar. So the difference between an energy and an entity is that energy is kind of like non-specific and doesn't have a will of its own, whereas entities do. And there's different types of entities out there. There's your earthbound spirits, demons and angels. There's nature spirits, or some people call them like fairies or fae. There's other types of nature spirits too, like a tree. Like I can talk to trees and they talk back to me. That's a thing that I love to do. I can talk to Earth herself and hear back from her. So there's different types of nature spirits. It's not just like fairies, but those are a thing. And then there's extraterrestrials. There's what else? Like deities. Wow, I'm like kind of blanking about like what else there is. I know there's more stuff than just that. There's a weird one that I've encountered and I've never figured out what they're called, but they hang out in cemeteries and it is not earthbound spirits. And I will not go in cemeteries anymore, and I try not to even go near them because when I pick those things up, um, they're probably the worst for me. And why am I picking them up? Okay, so here's the deal with 11s. Because we are sensitive, we draw the attention of entities, and the entities will sometimes just follow us around for a while after that. And it can be just a little bit like a weird influence on our energy and mood, depending on what it is, or it can like straight up like make us sick. It can drain our energy. It can cause nightmares. It can cause sleep paralysis and night terrors. It can it messes with us the worst when we don't realize that what we're hearing isn't our own thoughts, when we don't realize that, that it is what it is. If we practice divination, it can absolutely mess with the results that we're getting and how our read of the results is impacted, or rather, it impacts the way we read the results that we get. Um, what else? Those are the main things. If it's a nature spirit, then there's also an opportunity for them to like mess with stuff in the physical environment. So, if you've got stuff falling off shelves or like, a radio turning on when you're not in the room or something like that, that's not a demon, that's not an angel, that's not an earthbound spirit. That's got to be some kind of nature spirit because they are much more connected to the physical world than the other types of entities are. And by the way, if you know what those things that hang around cemeteries are, please let me know because it'd be cool to know what to call them. But they're different than anything else that I've run into. So anyways, I've kind of talked about how we pick up entity attachments. They can just follow us. Um, there's a little bit more to it than that though. first of all, I recommend never using a Ouija board. Using a Ouija board is essentially comparable to like putting a profile up on a dating website and putting your home address, your phone number, and then like leaving your door on your house unlocked. Like it's just a really bad idea. And like your full name. Like it's just a really bad idea because you're going to be able to talk to stuff, sure, but you're also like just opening the doorway or like opening a channel for like anything that wants to talk to you, and then they might follow you home or stay with you for a while. So that's one of the ways you can pick them up. You can also pick them up, like I said, like walking through cemeteries. You can pick them up just walking through like a building that has one hanging out there. Walking past someone on the street that's got an entity attachment, they can start following you instead. Um, Divination, you can pick them up through other forms of divination if you're not like, hmm. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and get into this part of it. So, one of the ways that they decide who to target, and with with demons, it doesn't matter so much um, what types of, you know, what activities you're doing or like where you are. The main thing with demons is whether there's a hook that they can like grab onto, or rather they have the hook. If there's a place for the hook to go in, that's where they're gonna get you. I say gonna get you like I'll talk about like how to handle it if you get them. So I don't mean for this to be the like this super scary thing. I'm not afraid of entities at all anymore at this point because I have learned how to interact with them. But so basically, like if there's a place to get a hook in you, then they're going to do that. And as long as that place is there, even if you clear them, they're going to be able to get back in again. So, like if you have an entity attachment and find a way to clear it, but you don't like take care of whatever it was that they were latching onto, then they could just come right back. So what are these areas that they can latch onto? Uh, Insecurities, pride, fears, um, longing, like especially if you're longing for like a certain person, or yeah, pretty much like if you're longing for a certain person like really intensely and you feel just like awfully lonely and just like terrible about it, um, that gives them an opportunity to to latch on to you, and it can actually turn into a sexual thing, and that really 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 messes with your energy. That can really drain your energy. Energetically it feels pretty similar to like if a really, like I don't want to use the word, I'm going to use the word, if somebody that has a lot of really narcissistic qualities and behaviors and tendencies like really has a hold on you, it's a similar kind of feeling, like the way your energy like just kind of gets drained and you're sort of like disoriented just in general. You're not sleeping properly. You're like, dropping the food you just cooked for dinner for no apparent reason. Like it just, you get all out of sorts from it. Um, so, so that's another way. So the important thing, if you're dealing with a kind of entity that like latches on to this sort of thing, is that you address whatever the underlying issue is. And sometimes that's less easy than other times. Sometimes just being made aware of it can be a huge blessing. So like I went through a little period of time where I kept attracting demons over and over again, and I didn't notice what they were at first. Like I didn't have the ability at that point in time to quickly and like properly discern between demons and other types of entities. So demons can actually like seem like very loving and light and wise beings when you're interacting with them. Um, like they seem just amazing, but you'll notice that they're feeding your ego, that they're trying to tell you that you're special, that you have some important thing that you need to do. Like they really prey on your pride and sometimes insecurities. Like they can also like warn you about some issue with some person or situation or whatever. Um, but but when this would happen, like as soon as I realized that I was dealing with a demon, I would clear it and then I'd say, okay, how did this happen? And it would show me where I was, where I had an issue that needed to be addressed. So I was really grateful every time it happened. I'm like, wow, you guys are just helping me out here left and right. You're showing me all these things that I need to work on. Um, so that was at the time. It's different for me now because I don't interact with entities much anymore. I mostly just focus on channeling energy instead of delivering messages from entities or like interacting with entities. At the time, I was very focused on getting guidance from entities because I was far enough along in my spiritual journey that I was surrendered enough to, instead of using my mind to make decisions, I would look for like spiritual means of making decisions. However, I wasn't yet at the point where I would just look to my own soul for guidance and use my inner compass and what feels right to me to make decisions. And, at the time I just wasn't ready yet. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not where I am right now. Right now, I still do divination, but it's a little bit different. I use mostly the I Ching, and that to me feels, um, if I'm using like tarot cards, runes, like oracle cards, anything like that, like there's a certain culture that I'm connecting to. There's a certain, like, there's the energy of the artist and the author that I'm connecting to. So it's a very like specific energy or like set of energies that I'm interacting with. But when I use the I Ching and I just use pennies and, um, just throw 3 coins. I actually have a different video about how to do I Ching readings if you look on my channel. But basically, it feels much more like I'm just connecting with the energy of the universe rather than a specific culture, a specific artist, a specific author. So, anyways, I still do some divination, but it's less to get guidance about what I should do. Although there is a little bit of that element there. It's more just like being open to being made aware of things that like I might not already be aware of, to like look at a different perspective or whatever. And in even then, um, I still will just completely disregard a reading if it didn't feel right, if it's not resonating. And you have to have a pretty like strong connection to like your core self in order to be really sure about something like that. But yeah, so if it doesn't feel right or like something seems a little bit off, then I just don't consider it, or the way I interpret it for my life, it's very important to go with what resonates with me on a very deep level, what feels right at my core. As I record this, it is election day 2020 in the US, and the energy of the collective, like it feels like I'm being electrocuted. Like it's a very unpleasant feeling in the collective. It's not as bad as it has been other times, like over the summer, it got pretty intense a lot of times. Um, it's just a very uncomfortable feeling. But what I have been finding is that over the past few days, my readings have been kind of wonky, a little bit off. Like they're coming up with some strange things that like just don't feel right. So I'm kind of just taking a break from divination right now, and yeah, I can always start up again whenever or not. Not a big deal, but with divination, it's important to be aware of what feels right and always trust your inner compass and your sense of like what feels right, like deep down. Clarity feels peaceful. It's not always pleasant and it's not always like happy, but it does always feel peaceful. So if there's some kind of uneasiness with a reading or something that an entity is saying to you, explore that a little bit. Go inside and look at what's happening there. Just like be with it a little bit and see what happens, um, because yeah, like you can, if you're in a place where you can expect clarity in order to know when to act, or just in general, like if clarity is something that you experience pretty frequently and you're not feeling it, it really stands out. So what I like to do is just kind of sit there until I have clarity. And if I don't have clarity, like, oh, okay, it's time for me to, just kind of chill a little bit and see what happens. Turn my attention inward. So, anyways, back to entities. So, when entities come to you, it's either because you've invited them to do so. And oh, I just remembered there's like other types of spirit guides, like spirit animals. That's another type of entity. And then you can interact with like ascended masters and like ancestors, like way back in your family line that have crossed over to the other side. A lot of people like to interact with their ancestors. So these are other types of, entities that people get in touch with. And yeah, so all right, so some entities find you because of places you've gone and like activities that you've done, and some just kind of like come to you, and some you have to invite to talk to you. I've run into a fair number of earthbound spirits, and so this is what I do with entities just in general. The first thing I do is say a blessing. It's just something along the lines of, I bless you with pure, unconditional love and acceptance and pure, infinite source energy. And if it's a demon, usually they're gone like that. Like as soon as I open my mouth to say something like that, they're gone. I can't even finish it and they're gone. But when it comes to earthbound spirits or like lighter entities, like if it's a light fairy, by the way, there are light fairies and dark fairies, and ones that are pretty much a mix of both of them. It's just like with humans and like demons and angels and stuff like that. Like there's always like a balance of light and dark, but sometimes there's more focus on the light, sometimes more focus on the dark. It just depends. But anyways, so with like light fairies, angels, with any kind of entity that you like want to be interacting with for the most part, if you start to bless them, they'll stay and they'll accept the blessing, and then they'll thank you for the blessing, and then they'll start talking to you. So when it comes to earthbound spirits, and I used to have a job that required me to go into other people's houses for a living, and I ran into a fair number of them. And usually they would be like hiding in a closet, hiding in the attic, hiding in the basement. Like they would try to stay kind of out of the way. And earthbound spirits are usually just stuck on whatever it is that they're stuck on. They're like a broken record. They just have this one concern that they're just looping over and over and over again, a sad moment that they couldn't get over, um, a certain type of fear, or um, other similar things. So there's something that they need. So if you are attracting earthbound spirits, it's because they need to be healed so they can cross over. And whenever I run into them, I pretty much just say the blessing, and then I just ask them what's up, like, hey, what's going on here? And they pretty much, you know, tell me what's happening, and then we talk about it a little bit, and then by the end of the conversation, they're like, I'm gonna go into the light now, and then they cross over. And it wasn't like that at first. I had to like get to a certain point um, in order for that to happen. But it really requires me to be able to hold space for pain in order to deal with earthbound spirits in a way that's meaningful. Because like it's not like light and easy and simple things that keep them hanging around here. Like it can be some really heavy stuff, and I needed to be in a position to hold space for that kind of thing before I could do that kind of work. And yeah, like sometimes like man, I'd have a little tear in my eye from the things that I heard. And you feel it too. You don't just hear it, you can like feel it. So anyways, so that's earthbound spirits. And yeah, I mean that's just generally about it, I think. I find that it helps to smudge, and that blessing that I said earlier, I say that before any divination, as I'm smudging, and um, just kind of periodically too. I also add a little clearing at the end as well. I clear myself of any prayers, spells, curses, or enchantments for me that are for anything other than the divine flow of life. I have a lot of Christians in my life, like a lot, and they're always praying for stuff, for whatever they think my life should be like. And like energetically, like I can feel it, like it feels like pressure on me. And whenever I say that clearing, um, like I clear myself of any spells, curses, prayers, or enchantments, like it just feels much lighter. It feels like a weight off. So I always tell them, like, if you're going to pray for me, just pray that God's will be done in my life. Don't go praying for anything that you think should happen. Trust God's will. Only pray that God's will happen in my life. That's it. And I consider anything else to be a spiritual attack, quite frankly, because they're trying to control me with their will, essentially. And anyways, right. So I think that's about it. Let me just think for a second. I'm going to pause and think for a second. If there's anything else that I want to say about this subject. Okay, there are two other things that I want to say. Oh, now three, because I just remembered. So as 11s, we can channel entities, but we can also just channel energies. And like our purpose as 11s is fulfilled by just channeling a certain energy into the world just by embodying it and carrying it around with us. So it's not like if you're an 11, you are like stuck being a medium for your entire life or something like that, or like doing a lot of that kind of work. Um, you can just allow that energy, certain energy, to come through and not just focus on the whole like channeling aspect of it. However, when it comes to that energy, it's not necessarily always just like, carrying it around with you. Sometimes that comes through as inspiration and you write a book or you make videos or whatever the case might be. So there's a lot of ways that we can bring messages from the spiritual realm. And like I said, it doesn't always need to be from entities, it can just be like a higher energy that's coming through us. So that's one message. Another message or thing that I wanted to say. I mean, what's the difference really? I don't even know. Anyways, another thing that I wanted to mention is that mental health issues and the subject of entities kind of go hand in hand a lot of times. And the reason that I stopped talking to people about this for the most part, and like in the past, I would have not expected that I would make a video and post it publicly about this kind of thing for this reason. But I have found that people who are willing to talk about it or are drawn to the subject a lot of times have some mental health issues. And like in the past, like I would be open to, a lot of interaction with people as they're trying to, deal with their entities or whatever. Um, at this point, it's not something that happens that often anymore. Like I don't talk to many people who are like, oh, I've got this thing happening. Um, so there's that. And I do think that there's a place for somebody to do the work of clearing and like teaching other people how to clear themselves of energies and entities, and to, I can, like when I talk about like hearing and seeing entities, it's intuitive. Like I can see a camera in front of me right now. I see that as a physical object. I do not see and hear entities that way. I can feel their presence just like I can feel the presence of a human being. Like playing hide and seek with me is not fair because I can feel where you are from like 100 feet away, if I like tune into your energy. Um, so I can like feel their presence and I like see them in my mind's eye, and then I hear them in my mind's ear, or however you would want to say that. So it's an intuitive thing. It's not the same as somebody that's actually in the room with me and I can see and hear them. So anyways, wowzer, I just forgot what I was going to say. Give me a second. All right. So what I was going to say is that um, I do think that there is a place for people to do like shamanic type work, where if somebody's being, um, if somebody's got entity attachments and you can clear them, it gives them a little bit of breathing room so they can work on their stuff and get, mental professional help, mental health, like professional experts in the field. Um, and they can do their work more effectively. I do believe that there's a place for that. And I certainly have no judgment for people that experience these types of things because, I mean, well, why would I? It's just a matter of recognizing when it's my place to be involved and when it's not. So, so anyways, I am open to doing that kind of professional work. However, it's not something that I seek and it's not something that I would want to do like, every day. So, anyways, um, there's that aspect of it, and then another aspect of it is that you need to be just really aware of how the energies in your environment are impacting you. Be aware of your energy cords and cut them as needed. Um, be aware of any telepathic connections that you might have. So when you hear a thought in your head, you can just say, "Are you a part of me?" And if it's part of you that's thinking that, then it'll say, "Yes, I'm a part of you." And you can actually interact with parts of you, and it's really exciting. There's a type of therapy called IFS. It stands for Internal Family Systems, and it's just a wonderful thing that I can't recommend enough. But if it's not a part of you, then it'll say no. Okay, are you a part of someone else? And they'll tell you I'm a part of this person, or if it's not a part of somebody else, then it's an entity. And when it comes to entities, you can say, "Who are you? What's your name? Show yourself to me," and you'll like when asked directly, they will reveal themselves to you. Um, you can ask them, like, "What do you want from me?" And my experience has been that, if asked directly, they will tell you. Um, but really, like, for the most part, once you recognize them for what they are, there's not a whole lot they can do anymore because they are pretty dependent on you thinking that there's something that they're not in order to have influence over you. And when that's not the case, when there's an entity that's attached and you know what it is and it just will not go away, then things like smudging and blessing, bringing white light into your energy field, like through your crown chakra, just bring in white light, expand it to fill the area around you, and you know, do the blessings and clearings and that sort of thing. So that is how I would recommend dealing with entities. I swear there was like one other thing that I was going to say. The only other thing that is coming to mind right now is that if you are going to do divination and you're going to do a reading for another person, or about your relationship with another person. And I don't recommend doing third party readings where somebody has not given you permission to do a reading about them and you're doing a reading about them. It's probably not a good idea. But if they have given you permission, or if you're doing it like for them because they have asked you to, or if you are just saying like, "What do I need to know about my relationship with this person?" Then yeah, cool, awesome. However, that blessing and clearing I would do for both of you and for your relationship, because like if I do a reading about a certain person, like who has given me permission to do it, or about our relationship, and I don't clear it first, it comes back wonky. Like it gets messed with. So um, lots of prayers on the other side of on that person's end of the connection with people in that person's life too. So, anyways, um, yeah, say the clearing, say the blessing. Always be really clear about who you're talking to, and When you hear something in your head, do not assume that it's your own thought. Say, is this a part of me? And if it's not, find out what it is. And even when it comes to very loving beings like angels and that sort of thing, don't just automatically do what they tell you to do. All right. um, do what feels right to you. I think of them more as like friends who can give me their perspective and opinion, and that's cool and everything, but I'm going to do what feels right at my core. And if you don't have that kind of connection with your inner compass, I would very much be focusing more than anything else on developing that. Um, and I mean, doing shadow work and, clearing away any unhealed wounds that you are unconsciously carrying around with you. Not that you can ever heal entirely, but anyways, do a bunch of that kind of work, and then you're going to have much stronger access to your inner compass. And by the way, IFS is very good for doing that kind of thing too. Doing shadow work is essentially what it's all about. So in any case, right, so this might be the weirdest video I've ever done, and maybe it'll be the weirdest one I ever do, but there is, I think, a need for 11s to know that entities can mess with them because, like, I see them sometimes, and I can tell just looking at them that there's some kind of interference or entity attachment happening. And, and I've had experiences like that myself. So it happens. And, it was really scary at first for me because I didn't know what I was dealing with. But now, like I said, it does not scare me at all anymore. So, anyways, thank you for watching. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you very much.